decision on it.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we exit the executive session.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, did you have a chance to look over the other salary rate approval?
I have looked over all of
Okay.
them.
Ask for a motion then to approve the salary rate approval forms as
Mr. Chair, I
presented.
make a motion that we approve the salary, what's it called, salary
Salary rate approval.
rate of approval forms as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next we have detailed salaried forms. Any comments on these? Are you good? No?
Those will be the catch-up ones. You will only have one of those moving forward each pay period. So,
Do we need a motion?
Yes, we do. I'm sorry.
This is called
What? Salary, payroll?
approval of payroll
Approval.
reports.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the payroll reports.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let you start signing something. I believe we got them all. We'll check them. See if we've signed all of them in the file.
If you want, I can check through them after John's done.
You what?
If you want, I can check through them after John's done. Just make sure.
Probably a good idea.
Well, there was like 10 of them, so 9 or 10.
Well, it took all my little arrows off of one of the tabs. So. All right, next we have alcohol license. Grandma's Pantry.
Sounds good.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the alcohol licenses and permits.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I would like some of these outfits that get alcohol licenses, their names. All right, let's go ahead and we'll go into our work session. Board of Ambulance. Come on, Chief, let's go back into the Board of Ambulance.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we enter the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Good morning, Commissioners. Ryan O'Hare, Bannock County Ambulance District. Just am here to discuss an opportunity that we were recently presented with and discuss options for expanded paramedic training this year in fiscal year 2023 than we had originally planned. We were presented with an opportunity from the Madison Fire Department They're putting on a cohort paramedic program here in the region. It's aimed at people that are already affiliated with EMS agencies and fire departments. It's at a greatly reduced cost than our normal training route, which is in Boston, which entails about the same time commitment and the same delivery, but the one to Boston, of course, requires us to send people back there. And so the savings that we will be able to train more people for the same money with this other one. The reason we're before you today is because we're looking for ways to take advantage of this opportunity. And so our proposal today is that we would send 3 additional students through this program in Madison. We believe we'll be able to execute that under the current contract and budgeted amount for operations. But in the event that we're unable to do that due to inflation or any other unforeseen costs, we would approach the board and ask to use capital expenditures that were previously approved for FY23. We've been very successful in our grant applications, and so we have a great savings in the capital lines this year, and we would propose in the unforeseen event that we were unable to achieve it in the budget, that we would approach that. That liability could be $22,500, and that's the cost of sending 3 people to school for the tuition and books.
Okay. But at the present time, you have this in your budget.
I believe we will be able
And
to
if,
accomplish this in the budget. We're just trying to.
If you have problems later on, you'll come and talk to us about
Correct.
moving funds at that time.
Correct.
Okay? Questions?
No.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the request as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Commissioners. We're excited about this opportunity.
All right, thank you. Dan?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Dan Kendall, Facilities Director. Go ahead, Ashley.
Ashley Ford, Maintenance Technician.
Paul Jensen, Planning and Development Director.
Had a monthly update for you guys for facilities. Courtroom 218, I wanted to start with that. Framing is complete. Electrical rough-in is complete. We're gonna have an electrical inspection today, and been working with the state and Carrie Hong, making sure that we're gonna be set up properly for that recording equipment. And anyways, that project is going very well. But while we're waiting for the wood molding and that kind of thing, we've moved over to the Safe Teen Center and started work on that. Ted Booth has been over there working with us. He's already got a floor plan made up and moving very quickly on that. But we started doing some light demolition. Anything we can do to get a head start while we're waiting on this wood molding in 218 to show up. So we're keeping busy and making progress.
Any surprises over there?
Yeah, that was my next. So we didn't do a lot of research before we purchased it. As we've opened things up, we probably found 15 to 20 roof leaks. We had a roof inspection yesterday. The front of the building is a mechanically fastened metal roof, kind of similar to what the museum had. The roofer feels as though we could probably patch the front part of that and make it work. The skylights are usually what causes those leaks. But the back of the building is a membrane, and he's thinking that's pretty much worn out. And it's leaked behind the stucco. So the stucco's coming loose on a few locations. That's going to have to be removed and replaced. So those are the 2 things I've found so far. A partial roof replacement is a possibility, and partial stucco. We'll have a stucco inspection, make sure everything's sealed up properly and everywhere else. It's not a huge section that's coming loose, but it's definitely ready to fall off. So
Kind of like out here.
yeah, very similar to out there. Yep. So that's the 2 things. We're having a sewer inspection this morning. They're going to send a camera up there and see where we can tie into it. We're having a hard time finding the original blueprints, so we're gonna make our own. So,
Okay.
but I think it's going really well. We got a good head start. So I'm excited about that.
Good.
General maintenance update, we don't have any significant repairs to report. I think everything's going fairly well. We've had a break in the snow, so that's been really nice for the crew to catch up on some sleep. Sounds like tonight we might be up a little early. As you've seen, we've had contractors all over the place. We take the contractors when we can get them, and sometimes they all come at once. And we're getting a lot done, though. I'm excited to see the progress. We finally fixed the leak on the front steps of the courthouse. We don't have an ice skating rink out there. That's been there for 10 years, I was told. So I'm excited to get that sealed up and get that lighting done and make it safer for the people coming out of the courthouse.
Good.
Yeah. Moving on, we had a discussion with the event center. We have a leased truck that we're not using very often. It's a 1-ton single cab truck with a utility bed on it. And it sounds like the event center could probably use that truck more than we're using it. And they have a truck that they're not using very often that I think we could use. So we were talking about trading trucks. I just wanted to bring it up. They're both leased vehicles. I didn't know if you guys had any concerns about that.
Shanda, any comments on that? Go ahead and come on up.
Commissioners, if the decision is made by the board, right, to swap those two departments, I just ask Enterprise to move the invoices to the different places, so then they'll just take over the event center invoice, and then the event center will take over theirs. But we can just swap them, and then I can update the two department heads on as far as when the lease comes up.
So, talking about swapping invoices and stuff, are they equal in values? I mean, so is one department getting a break over the other, or how do we
So they
make
might
sure?
be equal in value, but they're not equal in payments. The event center truck originally had two. We did turn back one of the trucks and put the equity of that that we got on that truck to this lease. So their payment on a monthly basis is much less, maybe around $400, I would guess. And where this truck has just been, there was no equity placed on it, it was just the initial investment. I'm thinking it's probably 7, 8 would be my guess on that one. So the payments are not equity.
Is there a possibility to keep the payments in the departments, even switching trucks? You know what I'm saying?
I would
We
say. no.
credited their budget because they turned in the truck that they were paying for. And doesn't seem right to me to take it away, now charge them more when they had credit on the other one.
But remember, I do have lease accounting
Uh-huh.
that I have to do and reporting, so that will skew the numbers, and that will say that the event center is paying for the wrong truck versus maintenance. And I have to report it by fund,
By fund, okay.
so that would inappropriately report numbers.
Unless we transferred funds from their budget into their
You
budget to
can't
cover
transfer
that.
monies between funds unless it's a general fund going to a non-levied fund. So you can't do that. The only thing we could do is see if possibly Enterprise would take the residual value and apply it to the other truck and adjust the payments, but that might require new lease documents, I don't know.
Let's talk to them about it. We need to utilize the trucks. I mean, like I say, you need an 8-foot bed, and you don't need that super cab 8-foot bed and everything else, especially if you're plowing.
And this year would be the only budgetary impact because we already have the budget set. But next year, we would just adjust property taxes between the departments to cover, take it away from one and give it to the other.
Okay. Okay. Just ask Enterprise what they can do, and we'll see. If not, we'll make an adjustment next year, but I'd just soon have the trucks utilized instead of sitting over in the parking lot across the street, paying lease on it.
We
Can you
can't just let
absorb
them
that?
drive each other's trucks
I think-
without going through all this?
So Christie just asked me a question, Commissioner, to ask if we could absorb it. I think when we did our budget, I think I calculated it at the rate that we were paying, not the reduced rate that
Okay.
we had applied. So I might be able to just take it straight across and we should be fine. Yeah, so I'll just have to take a look at that, but that might also be an option.
Go ahead and ask your question,
So
Commissioner.
my question is, we can't just let them drive each other's trucks?
Good.
And any issues with that, or?
The only problem with that is we're not correctly tracking expenditures for maintenance and wellness event center. And you kind of want to know what the true costs are. That's why it should follow the department.
On the other part on this is the bed that's on this, we are leasing a chassis. And we have a utility bed on that that is Bannock County's utility bed. And you want to put a flatbed on that truck, so there will be some expense possibly, or just if we could trade out the beds, maybe whoever we buy the flatbed from wants the utility bed. So that's still got to be discussed, and Road and Bridge was looking at
Yeah.
that. But, so
I mean,
there
our
may,
needs are simple. We just need a gooseneck and then something we can plow snow with, and the long box Ford truck we have with that 8-foot bed just is not great for that. But it does have the gooseneck, so that's one of the reasons we kind of hang on to it. But if we could swap it out, put it in a flatbed, get a gooseneck, it would be a better vehicle for our purposes. The 1 ton would be better than the 3/4 ton for us, and then you'd be able to haul the 12-foot.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, the four doors and a long bed would be good for me.
well, I think it was a good discussion, and it's something that we need to do. There may be a few details, but just ask for a motion to have them switch and work it out.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we let these guys switch their trucks and then work out a way to get it done so that it meets whatever our accounting requirements are.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 All right. The last topic would be the boiler project at the jail. Just wanted to give you an update. Hal's going to have better details than on the engineering side of it, but we did have a contract for you guys to sign. It's the same contract that Star signed earlier. I just changed the dates on it, and Brian went through it and okayed it. And then Star came in yesterday and signed it, so I know they'll feel better about having a contract and
So will we.
yes. But I feel like things are moving forward very well. We've got some engineering done, and I wanted Hal to stop by and talk about some more engineering.
Okay.
Commission, good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you. Relative to work that's been accomplished, we had Paul Bastian, structural civil engineer, go out. We met with Star on site, talked about where the original break occurred, and the washout under the slab left a big hole. Knowing that we had a footing and a floor line that had been undermined in some of that washout as well, and concerns about how to support that wall. It's been temporarily supported. We went on the generator room side, cut a hole so that we could shoot pea gravel down on one side of the hole and shoot pea gravel from the boiler room side and bring up basically compacted engineered fill to fill the hole. That's been done. We now are in the process of re-engineering the drain lines and the floor drains. There has been a wash or a jetting of the existing sewer line. Levi took care of that, and that line was then cammed, and we know that we no longer have the potential in the existing line heading towards the main sewer line that is no longer compromised for potential backup. So in that process of digging new sewer lines, new waste lines and floor drains, there will be a fair amount of material that gets moved, and because of that we'll be able to spread that material across the surface and continue to take the existing materials and dry it out, get rid of the moisture content that seems to be a potential problem because of the break. Even though it's been 7 months or more, our soils retain moisture a long time. The good news is that the soils did not turn gelatinous, is a good way of putting it. And so therefore, they still have potential structural integrity by the time we take it, dry it, and place it back. And at that point, once we get the lines in, the material dried, placed back, then we'll go back in and start the prep for the floor slab, and the floor slab will be done, and we continue to move forward. I am meeting with the mechanical engineer for a simple contract. Should have that in place, hopefully for you to look at next week sometime, so that he can give us direction on boilers. At that point, we'll have some conversation on, the existing boiler was X number of BTUs for performance. The new boiler is basically going to be required under insurance contract to meet that minimum BTU. We need to have a conversation if it is the intent of the commission to consider upsizing relative to future jail expansion, and do we have the budget to do that at this time while it's apart? Okay, some conversations that will still need to move forward, but just so that you're aware of what's the conversations that are taking place, what we've done. That's where we're at to date. I will share with you, under the STAR contract, that allows them to work with us and gives them a sense of calm because they've been functioning without a contract. The bigger issue now is that we will end up entering into, well, we won't enter into a contract with STAR. This one will support, but at some point we will report back. After we have all design in place, they can give us a guaranteed maximum price, which is what the insurance company is anticipating from STAR at this point. Okay, that's the only big open issue that we've not resolved moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, and we need to have that discussion on the boiler and what we're looking for in the future, and kind of some costs there. We went out and did our gel inspection last week, and they said the boilers were kicking out on the replacement boilers that are out there now.
Backup
Boilers, so.
I think they've resolved some of that
Have they?
issues, yeah.
they have. And the other item that has taken place is that fire lines have been extended to the temporary structure. And that's, so we have coverage at this point
Yeah, yes, we had a little fire out there,
on
huh?
the building. Yes.
A little, yeah.
So, that's good, we extended the sprinklers.
And then just as a comment, one of the items that people question is, why do you talk boilers? And whenever you have a boiler system, and especially of a building that's deemed by the building code of critical nature, there is required to be what's referred to in the industry as redundancy. So therefore, 2 boilers. In the event that one goes down, you have another one that can back up, etc. So a lot of people, well, why don't you just put 1 boiler in? Well, that's the reason why. It's basically just good business practice.
It's pretty critical out there.
So,
So,
That's something we need to think about in the courthouse. We have 1 boiler.
okay. Motion on the contract?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the contract as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Nancy, I'm going to go to you.
Daniel Harrison with the Portland Greenway is also here. He's been the one working on the, oh, sorry, Dan. Yes.
This one, Nancy, is this one you want me to be, have as well?
Yes.
Oh, you're.
No, okay.
All right. This is a discussion on the grant for a trail.
Yep, Daniel's been working hard pretty much today. All we're requesting is the final approval of the application and approval of an electronic signature for Commissioner Moser.
Okay. And I'm looking through here, there is the 20% match, which the Greenway is going to cover.
Yes.
Just want to make sure that that's
There's a
clear.
letter of commitment in there
Yeah.
too, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it on the record.
So total budget's about 45,000 and the Greenway's making a cash commitment for 10,000.
Okay. Any concerns, questions, comments?
No.
Okay, a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the grant application.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll submit a grant. Thank you. Go ahead and stay here. Where's Shanda? Let's have Shanda come up.
Good morning, Shanda Crystal, Chief Procurement Officer, and I've asked
Scott Crowther, Event Director, Business Manager.
to join you this morning. For the first item I have before the board is in regards to the 4th of July fireworks display RFP that we went out to bid for. That was out for formal bid posted in the paper. We did receive one bid back, and that bid has been reviewed. Scott put together an evaluation team, and it was a great cross between new employees that haven't been with us yet, and we had Cheney join us, and then Scott and Annie from his office that were here with the show we had last year, as well as he reached out to Christy Davenport and asked her for her involvement in the 4th of July extravagance, I don't know, celebration that we do every year, to be able to just have a different perspective on things. And so that was his evaluation team, and as they went through things, that evaluation team is confident. It is happens to be the same company that we went with last year, and they are confident that they'll be able to put on just an amazing show as they did last year. They were able to meet all the safety guidelines and things that we set forth, any permitting, anything like that. And the review that they did as far as other shows and things that they reached out to, right? Everything came back fabulous, so that was great. The one concern I did have is similar to a couple of the past projects, is that we only got one bid back in. And so just wanting to make sure that that price was in range with what we anticipated. I went through the same process that we've done on the last couple ones that we have reviewed, looking at the number of interested parties. This is a unique field. There's not a lot of professionally pyrotechnic, right? We are not going to allow people that just enjoy shooting off fireworks in their backyard to come and put on our show. So this is a limited pool of suppliers that we are talking about. I was surprised at Bonfire when I put in my evaluation codes, or commodity codes. Sure enough, they had one for pyrotechnics, which was great. But when we sent it out, there were 11 people registered, which I have not seen less than 100 registered suppliers in any other field we've gone out to. So it is limited. We did have 2 interested. We had one other company pull down the bid on Bonfire, as well as this Acme Pro Pyro. And then only received the one bid back in. So we looked at that and also looked at historical data. We do have some of that on these projects as we have run fireworks shows before, and we're able to see that they were in line with the increases that we have seen over the last little bit, and then it's also in line with our approved budget as well. So those, in making through that review process, it would be procurement's recommendation that we do award this to the single bidder that came through, Acme Pro Pyro, for $100,000 for the show.
Well, they did a great job last year, and so they've already kind of proven themselves in Bannock County, in my opinion, and it's within our budget limit. So
One of the things, just to comment on these guys, so I've done the fireworks 3 years now. I've played a role in 3 years. That first year we had it, we got a COVID discount. I don't know if you remember that, because we were one of the only places that ran a 4th of July fireworks show, and that was about $70,000. That company has nearly doubled that cost when we contacted them the next year. Last year we kind of got our bid out late, and we got our budget at that point in time was $90,000. Acme Pro Pyro came in, and they gave us, I don't know, maybe $120,000 worth of fireworks for the $90,000 bid. This year they've come in with $138,000 worth of fireworks they're going to give us for the $100,000 bid as part of this as well. I think one of the reasons we had fewer bidders is because fireworks are really expensive, and what we're asking for and what our sponsors expect is the show that we have put forth. And so I feel like we're getting a really, really good deal on this, although it might seem like a good chunk of money. I think we're getting a great deal, and like last year, is our hope that this will be covered 100% by sponsors in the community. So there should be no cost to the county.
Can't argue with that.
My favorite kind of contract.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the recommendation to award the contract.
I do have a letter for signature.
Thank you.
Vote.
Oh, we have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You gotta keep me on track sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
For my second item before the board today is, we met with the board last week and talked about the concealed weapons detection project. And had some requests coming out of that meeting, and one of that was to review the request for information that was submitted to us in total. And then, as we had conversations with these suppliers, we were able to clarify some of the prices that they had attached to things. So Kathleen has done a great job of putting together a very clear synopsis of what would be a one-time cost versus what ongoing costs would look like for these two companies. The one thing I do want to make clear is two things. One, we are not limited to these two suppliers. They just happen to be the only two suppliers that responded to our RFI. So this is just giving us an idea, something to talk about, something to create. But then as we go out to bid or look to piggyback up a contract, right, these aren't the only two players in this game. So I want that to be clear. And then the second is that we cannot award this project based on the information that we've received. We did a request for information. Idaho code says we can't award off that, and there would be either like to piggyback off a contract or to go out for a request for proposal or something else other to be able to award this project. So I wanted to make those two things clear. But we had an additional, as I met with Commissioner Crowder afterwards and I got some more information to him as far as the projects were going on, he did have a request, and that was to review the net present value of these payments. So that was the item that I had just passed around, because as he and I talked yesterday, there are some assumptions that we're making when we do these calculations. And I did want to, as we're talking with Mr. Crowder about supporting various different interest rates going forward. And so that's what got passed around during this morning's meetings. So you're able to see what the cost of those payments would be at today's rates, giving different interest rates that the cash could be worth. I started with 4. I figured if you could get a home loan for anywhere from 2.5% to 3%, that 4 could be a nice floor to start with. And then Commissioner Crowther put the 10%, and so then I just threw a 7 in the middle just for some evaluation between them to take a look at. But what this does is it takes the numbers that were given as far as the one-time costs and then those ongoing payments for the next 4 years and sucks them all back into one number at today's rate. So that is what's giving you, just as then, for instance, we have had conversations that even these numbers that are ahead of you, we have been told, right, the prices increased in January, so this is not going to be total project costs by any means. We still don't quite know where that's going to land yet, but that these are just some items to talk about and review and have a discussion and see where we want to go with this project. Did you have anything you wanted to? If there were questions or.
And so what we're looking at here is, well, tell me what you're asking us to approve today.
Okay. So today we are looking, our group, and I was hoping Dan was going to be here, but we had Braden, Kathleen, Carrie, Adam, and Dan in that initial group to review and look at. That group would like to move the project forward. We see value in moving this forward. The time frame of the equipment that we have has been fantastic, but that it's time to upgrade and move forward. We are asking the board to approve the project to move forward to go to solicitation, and whether that be piggyback off a contract or go out for bid, That we're not quite certain of yet, but approval from the board as far as the project goes. And we do have, there is some budget, but there's been discussion that that potentially might not be enough. Christy presented last week a few different options, but again, not knowing timing of the project or the full amount made it difficult for her to have a finite plan to present, to present before the board. But that is what we're looking for, is to approve the project so we can move forward to that next step and go out for solicitation.
And the project is to basically get 2 of these machines, correct?
Correct.
And associated with that project, with the type of device you're looking at, and the reason you have this other analysis is because there are ongoing costs that the companies are proposing for, service, maintenance and service going forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kathleen, could you talk a little bit about what would be maybe included in some of those ongoing, because I know like if it breaks down or anything like that, right, they're going to respond. But other than that, I wasn't quite sure what would.
It also includes the updating of the software because it's AI software. It's going to continue to update as new submissions come in and essentially get smarter, so it includes that as well.
Right.
How to identify different items.
Right. Okay, well, I think, I've met with all of you individually and discussed this project, and I think it is an important project that we need to move forward. And the concern that I have with this is not the cost of the machines themselves. I think that's at least close to what we're talking about as far as budget dollars. The service agreements, my understanding is you guys are going to talk to these guys going forward and look to find ways to mitigate those costs that are being proposed. And that's part of the project, is to take a look at that.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with it too. My only question was, so we have 3 machines right now, right? And so the one down here, are we gonna take it out, or is it gonna be out, because it's supposed to be obsolete, basically, from what we was told the other day. So are employees just gonna walk through without anything over here? That's my only question.
My hope for the future, one, I don't see that we take it out because even if we had issues on some of the other machines and we had to use that as a door, we could still use it as a backup method. But what I would like to look forward to is once we do these and we like the product, we see that it is a good product, it's providing us what we need. My belief is that we still need one on the employee door as well.
That's what I was just kind of questioning what was gonna go on down there, and what's the future for that one?
Yeah, I would like to plan for that, but I think we need to do the 2 public doors first and then get a good sense of, is it a good product? Are we putting the public's money in a good place, and then move forward with that.
And I'm all for moving forward with it. So let's get some bids or piggyback and then identify the exact number and what's gonna go on. And then you wasn't here the other day when we went out and looked at the front entrance. That's what I call the front entrance. I don't call this in the front entrance, but the handicap accessible entrance and what we can do out there to improve for accessibility of anybody that comes through that end. By the middle of next month, February, we should have control of that road and close it off. And so we're moving forward with that too. I mean, they're actually 2 separate projects, but they intertwine the way we'll put it together.
And also, I think you said that there was some utilization we can make of these existing machines, that we're not just dumping them, that they can be useful elsewhere or even as backup to this new system in case something were to go wrong.
So the other plan would be, because of the juvie door, the machine that's over there is older than the ones that we have here. So I would like to move one of the ones that we're replacing over there. And then, as we progress, but, start here and then start moving towards the rest of them.
This sounds like we're talking about our vehicles again. They're 40 years old, they're still running.
Classic equipment.
It just reminds me of, because I've got older brothers, it's hand-me-downs.
So, yeah, go ahead and make a motion to move forward, or?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the request to move forward with this project as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Right. We'll start having that team put together, if we can. Piggybacks are quicker, right, to get in place, and potentially have additional buying power. Generally, they're done off of larger agencies that have more services available. So I think that's what we'll start vetting out first. And then, but the group will come back before the board with a recommendation to either piggyback or go out for solicitation here in a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The last item I have before the board is the procurement update. And just a few items I wanted to point out on here. The first one is the engineering pool. That first draft has been sent out to departments. I am working with 3 different departments on that, and that is Road and Bridge, and Planning and Zoning, and Facilities as well, are the 3 that we'll be looking and reviewing and making sure, adding comment of anything like that before it comes before the board. The second one is the Fuels Reduction Grant Coordinator. That one is moving along and has been submitted to legal for review, and so then should be before the board here in a couple weeks. The survey review RFQ that went out, the questions have been submitted. We did get a handful of questions on Monday, and the department is working on responding to those, and they're due back out to suppliers by Friday. And then the last one I wanted to review with the council is the concert production services. As you'll recall, the board signed a resolution that it was more economical to procure these services on the open market. And as Scott and I had a conversation, we wanted to still make a process that all of our suppliers as well as our board could understand of what that means for this particular project. And what we've come up with is that once we have, it seemed like our biggest problem in this bid was the fact that we didn't know concert dates. We didn't have writers for companies to bid off of. We didn't have solid information. So it was difficult for vendors to respond to that. So the plan is that once we have our first confirmed concert, once we get that writer, to send it out to all 4 interested parties. Then we had 4 companies have conversations with us. We had one of those companies come to a pre-bid meeting, and only one of those companies actually put in a bid. But we wanted to be open and transparent to everybody, so we're going to do all 4. And we're going to say now that we actually have a date, now that we actually know what equipment we need and what labor we need, now we want to quote for this work. So once we have those solid information and send it out to those 4 vendors, getting those quote backs and review, who can, and it will be a review process. Scott will have conversations with them and understand back and forth. There are potential items on writers that aren't needed. And so then that conversation will happen as well. As Scott proposes a company to move forward with for that specific concert, I believe it will come back before the board. Sorry, I only hesitate because I can't remember what authority, if Scott has been given authority to sign those contracts or not. But however that has been previously agreed upon, there'll be a contract, and then we'll see how things go. Right? It could be there's only one company that we've had in the past that has previous experience with our facility, but we wanted to give all 4 of those players the opportunity. There are 2 that are from out of state that might make it more difficult, but we still wanted to give them the opportunity if they wanted to work with us to offer up a quote and see what that might look like moving forward. But that is our current plan, and that once we get that concert set, that we can move forward and actually ask for solid numbers from these companies.
So, in doing this, because each band, each concert will have different requests.
Right.
And so it's pretty tough to just do a blanket
Right. So
bid on, because like I say, each band has their own desires and equipment and stuff, so.
right. So that will not be for the concert season. That will be for that individual concert.
Okay.
And then they'll see, because there'll be potential times as our schedule rolls out that potentially a company might not be available. They might already be booked at another venue doing their own work, right? It might be possible that they don't have the type of number of staff we need to pull in. So nope, they're going to pass on that one. But to keep those 4 as long as they're interested in working with us and there are no problems, right, to have those conversations each time we go to have another one to understand and be able to make those shifts as needed. Because you're right, and there's some that require more equipment than others. So to be able to understand if one of those out-of-state companies is just getting employees, maybe he can work with a employment place here to just pull employees and not fly everybody in. But moving equipment may be difficult. But to be able to have those conversations.
We look forward to moving forward.
All right.
How many concerts are we planning to have this year?
I think they're looking at 8.
8.
If I,
8 concerts, and when's the first one?
There is no confirmed concert date.
When do we hope it's gonna be?
I think he
May.
has, I think he has a couple now. I think he has 2 that have signed with us now, and I'm not sure what the dates
But we
are.
don't know if it's the first one of this season or anything.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I just
Okay.
had heard something about,
I think there's 2 confirmed.
there was 2 that had confirmed. I know he had a lot out, but I thought there was 2 that actually had confirmed now.
That's what he told me yesterday,
Was it?
first part of May.
So as soon as he gets that confirmed writer, then he'll move forward in this process and get a production company on board.
Very good.
Okay. The last one is very more general. I did report a few weeks ago that Bonfire had acquired Demand Star. They have acquired another company called Ion Wave, and that is adding another 300 potential vendors to our pool when we pull those commodity codes and send them out. So I'm excited that Bonfire is doing well and acquiring more potential suppliers for us. So I'm excited to report that. But other than that, unless there's any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Emma?
Save the best for last. Emma Iannicone, Public Information Officer. I'm just here to provide a general update on our digital analytics. I put together a few sheets for you to look at. I tried to boil it down even further, but I wasn't sure what you would be interested in seeing, so I'll just kind of go through really quick. At the top, you can see that I have a total general analytics update for all of our social media pages. Across all of them, excluding our amphitheater page, because that one has been inactive for the past couple of years, and that's one that we're going to start using again with our new marketing agency that the event center has partnered with for the concerts.
Do we have control of that now?
We do.
Where
Yes, I got control
Board of
of
Health
that.
Trust used to have control of it?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
got that back under our control, so
Thank you.
we'll be able to start using that. I'm excited to get that going again this year. Overall, we have a 6.14% engagement rate, which is pretty outstanding. A good engagement rate is between 1% and 5%. So I was really thrilled to see that we were even above that. That means the percentage of people who are seeing our content are either commenting, liking it, sharing it with somebody else, or clicking on the link. So it means people are interested in the content that we're putting out there. Besides our Portneuf Wellness Complex, the page that has the most followers is our Sheriff's Office.
Do the inmates have access to that?
Once I get out. Our lowest engagement rate, our lowest engagement rates were amongst the Portneuf Wellness Complex and the Bannock County Event Center pages. I attribute that in part to our low content that we have in the winter. I'm not up there. I just don't have time at the moment to go up there and get generic photos of people walking around or fishing and whatnot. I'd like to put together some kind of plan to improve that general content and hopefully improve that engagement rate. I also think that it helps improve goodwill amongst the community and improve our reputation when we can kind of do that kind of thing, so that it's not just posts about concerts, or last year in the case of the Rockzilla concert, that they're seeing out in the community. They're going to see more of this fun, positive general content as well. So I'd like to move towards that this year as well. You'll notice that the page that has well, not the lowest follower amount, but compared to the Portneuf Wellness Complex, the Bannock County Event Center has significantly fewer followers and reach. I'd like to combine those pages so that we don't have 3 across the whole facility, right? But that would be a discussion that we need to have with Scott and the 3 of you to decide if that's something that we need to move towards, especially with the naming of the 2 different complexes. I don't know if that would be an issue, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention so that's something we can readdress.
What are you wanting to combine?
The Bannock County Event Center Facebook page and the Portneuf Wellness Complex Facebook page.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions before I move on to the constant contact analytics?
No, just up there, I mean, everybody still calls it the fairgrounds. It doesn't matter what side it is. It's still the
Yep.
fairgrounds. So we got to do a better identification
Absolutely.
of where the fairgrounds is and where it isn't.
You have too many old school people that know it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know that you're ever gonna change that.
I think there's
Well,
even
and
still
we've talked about
signage.
changing the name of the road up there
Yeah.
from Fairgrounds Way
Mhm.
or whatever, so.
Right.
But
Yeah, I think that's a big project that we should.
and I guess what I'm saying is combining the event center and the wellness complex, I think would help change that too. 'Cause is it the fairgrounds, is it the event center, is it the wellness complex? I
Right.
mean, everybody has their own, like, depends what age group. It's like the mini dome.
Yeah.
Hold arena, what is it?
Yeah.
You know, it was a mini dome forever.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's definitely a larger discussion that we should have. And, you know, depending on how things go with the marketing agency that we're using for the concerts, maybe that's something they can help us with, or maybe it's something that we keep internal, I don't know, but just for a future discussion. I'll move on to the constant contact analytics. This is something that we set up last year in late 2021 to start improving our direct outreach to the community. So we started with the newsletter, the monthly newsletter, which has 412 people subscribed to it. And then we added things like the board's agenda notifications, our planning and development council agendas, news releases. We even started adding job openings. So every Friday I work with Josh to send out our newest posted jobs or jobs that we haven't gotten a lot of reception for or applicants for. So I send that out. We have 163 people subscribed to the job openings. So. And quite a few of them are internal too. People, our employees, are interested in seeing what kind of jobs they could potentially move to internally. So that's kind of cool. I think it's been a positive thing that we've done. You'll see total, we have 472 people subscribed. Once we reach 500, our subscription level for that program will increase, and we'll have to increase our payment. I didn't search to see what that cost was before I came up here, but I remember it being not significant, like maybe a couple of $100 at the most. I'm sure it's not even that.
So Emma, the way this works is you write the newsletter, you put it in this system, and it automatically gets sent out by the system to everybody that's put in or asked to subscribe to.
Yep.
Each of these items, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been a great program. I really like it because some government agencies like Ada County and City of Pocatello, their newsletter system sends it out as a PDF that people have to click a link on to open it, whereas ours is more marketing based. So as soon as you open it, it has that pretty layout. It always looks consistent. And I like that a lot.
Comes into your email.
Okay, I'll continue moving on. Oh, and then the next page you can see of the 84 email campaigns, that includes all the newsletters, all the agendas, all of that. We sent it to 8,800 people in 2022. Our open rate was 70%, and industry average from Constant Contact is only 39% for an open rate. That means that's how many subscribers are opening the emails. So that's really fantastic. That's something that we want to continue to maintain at about that level because, of course, there's going to be people who aren't going to be interested or are busy that week and aren't opening it. But, I mean, 70% of the people who are subscribed are interested in the content enough to open it, which is phenomenal.
Emma, does this mean you sent 8,800 emails in 2022?
I sent 84 to 8,800 people. Does that make sense? So there were 84.
There were actually 8,800 individual email addresses, or the same address got sent through 12 times or whatever?
No. So I guess the way to mathematically do it would be if there are 472 subscribers who say they were subscribed for the whole year, then you would times that by the 84 email campaigns that I sent out, and you'd get a higher number than this 8,800. But this 8,800 is tracking when they subscribed. So if they subscribed in July, they were only going to get those 12 or those 6 emails, monthly emails.
How many campaigns you did?
84.
Okay, so and there's 470 some odd subscribers, so those 470 odd subscribers got 80 some odd emails.
If they subscribe to all of them.
Right.
Right. So.
And then, but whatever the case is, you sent out all these emails and 70% of them got opened.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah, across the board.
Okay.
I didn't break it down. I didn't know if you'd want to know individually, like how many are opening the agendas or how many are opening the newsletters. I can do that, of course, if you'd like to see that. That's an easy enough number to pull, but I didn't want to bombard you with too much.
No, this is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure I understand what it is we're
for sure
looking at.
For sure. And it slow me down if I'm talking too fast as well.
Right.
The click rate measures how many people are clicking on a link when after they open and are reading it.
So we read the email, we click on, okay, I want to see what the jobs are. That counts as one click there.
Exactly. Yeah. And typically a click rate is only about 2%. So the fact that we're at 16% again just tells me that the people who are reading our content are really interested in it, which is great news. Our bounce rate was about 3%. That just measures the amount of people who are subscribed, but then the email wasn't delivered for either a server issue or they were out of office, or say they deleted their email address and it's no longer existent or something like that. Any other questions in regards to the constant contact numbers? So moving on to the website, we had just under 300,000 visitors to our website in 2022.
Visits or visitors?
Visits, so the sessions, that's what I would consider as individual people, and that could also count me multiple times because I visited the website every single day that I've worked here. Page views, that counts how many pages that you're looking at inside the website. So that's why that number is higher than sessions. On average, people spend just under 2 minutes on our website. And then the bounce rate measures how many people are, once they get the information, they're leaving. They're not exploring what else is on the website. Our most visited pages, you can glance through that pretty quick. You know, our motor vehicles and assessors is our top 2 most visited besides the home page. Elections, then sheriffs, then driver's license. The detention center page was a surprise to me because truthfully I didn't know that we had a detention center page. I hadn't updated it since it was originally created back when Rory was making the page, making the websites. So I wanted to take a look at that one again and make sure all that information is up to date.
When you say detention, is that juvenile then?
No, it's just the
It's the
jail.
jail.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And all that information is available on the sheriff's page, so I'm not really sure why we would need a second detention center page. But
Well, and that's kind of the weird thing. To me, detention is juvie.
yeah, right. So.
It's jail's jail.
Yeah, so I might consider deleting that one if we don't need it. If the information's already available on the sheriff's page, we don't need it. And then our top 10 referrals, that is referencing the places besides, like if I directly Googled bannockcounty.us, how people are getting to our website. So besides internal referrals from the website to other parts of the website, the Secretary of State's office is one of our top referrals, and then Facebook. There are a couple of different Facebook referrals, and that's just referring to the device that they're on, either mobile or desktop. I don't know why it breaks it out into 3, but the M and the LM are both mobile, and the L is desktop, from my understanding. And then countyoffice.org, Pocatello US, and Public Records are other referral sites that we get a lot of traffic from. And then finally, I wanted to share with you a quick overview of the amount of people who are reading the letters from the elected officials. That was something I instated last year to accompany our newsletter. I asked each elected official to write one letter rotating throughout the year for each newsletter. And this is tracking how many people are clicking on the article that you wrote to read it. So I felt like that was just good information for you to know that what you write is not going unseen.
You direct that at me?
No, just in general. You got, how many? You got 80 people reading yours, so.
Oh, goodness.
80 people.
Pretty cool.
All right.
If this is something that you're interested in, I can do a monthly or quarterly update as well, or maybe if it's you prefer yearly, whatever you prefer, I can.
I'd say quarterly.
Quarterly?
Yeah, I like the information. It's good to know and stuff.
But yeah, monthly.
Yeah,
would
me
be a
too.
little-
I want to see
Monthly's
how
pretty
we're
quick.
progressing, so.
What was that?
I'd like to see how we're progressing with this. So.
Yeah, for sure. I was excited about our growth rate, especially on our main page. We had 30% follower growth rate over the year, which equates to a little over 2% a month, which I thought was really great. I started, and I believe we were at just 1,100 followers, so to get up to 1,500 since I've been here, I wanted to pat myself on the back for that.
We can have a contest here.
Yeah.
Don't know what the prize would be though.
It's not my favorite thing in the world to do.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Okay.
I had 4 years of the mayor's corner.
Yes. But only once every 9 months with me, so.
No, thank you very much. That's good information. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll plan on doing this every quarter.
And again, thank you for coming down there last night and
Yeah, of course.
participating. And
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear from Downey and see you guys in the public's eye and, you know, being able to communicate and engage with them directly. I thought that was really great.
did you get a good picture of Anita? She did a great job.
She did great.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Braden.
Okay, Braden Clayson, Chief of Staff. I don't know if this is a conversation you want to continue today with Jeff being out, but I figured I'd ask you, and we're just talking about how we want to gather items for the forensic pathology facility going forward.
What's your suggestions? Because, I mean, the key thing is the reporting and how we keep track and make that as simple as possible.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of,
Well, so that's what the basis of it was, is how can we do that without sending Christy down, you know, a hole where she's got to fill out thousands of $200 invoices in ARPA reporting. And so we wanted to try to find a way that we could do this with trying to get things more in a bulk process, from scalpels to, you know, supplies that are used in the actual autopsy room to equipment like x-rays, mobile x-ray, whether we do the stand-up x-ray, you know, things like that. Just the heavier price tagged items. Portnoy has suggested that they're willing to kind of let us piggyback off of them and then invoice us directly for, you know, any of those, I guess, operating room type of materials. So that is one route we could go. Dottie has connections with who they use in Ada County at their current facility. We're kind of just pricing to see what the price difference would be between those. She's kind of looking into that. But we didn't know, you know, if we go that route with.
as long as we're not in our own facility and we're using Portnoy's, I'd rather have them invoice us. Where are we going to store everything?
That's what we're trying to figure out right now.
We don't have any storage area and stuff like that.
We've been talking with Nate about that, and they have identified some spaces for us to keep materials and things, histology slides, things like that up there. So everything will be on site within the morgue area. They've also offered a kind of a side closeted area where we're potentially going to put our mobile x-ray. And that's right as the intake. So once you're bringing a decedent in, that x-ray will be right there. There's a storage closet that would hold it. There's also a little bit of room in there for other equipment to be stored.
Well, I think that we could probably continue this discussion. We've got it set up for 2 weeks.
March 9, I believe. Well, March 9 is the forensic pathology discussion. The reason for that is,
Yeah.
the reason that got pushed out is when I met with Jeff, we discussed that we really need a new financial analysis, because that thing was done, when that was done, people were looking at a $2 million cost, and now, of course, we're getting numbers like 7.5, 7.8 million. And so my feeling was we can't really make hard decisions on all this purchasing until we really have a meeting and discuss what are the real numbers we're looking at and so on. So my understanding here today is that you're not asking for, nor has anyone given authority to start buying this stuff.
No.
But I
No,
want
we're
that
just-
to occur after we have this meeting on March 9. We get new numbers that tell us what is this really going to cost, as firm as possible, and we have a discussion about what are the best options and so on. And I know we already had discussions about driving that 7.5 number down. And so that's what I understand is going to occur on March 9. We're going to have this big discussion and find out where things really stand. But as for planning, making the assumption that we're going to be moving forward at some point with authorization to buy stuff, how it's done and to make it as palatable as possible for the comptroller, really, I think you guys should have those discussions and figure out what
Just to kind of add to that, or give a little bit on the tail end there, I don't know how much, without getting some of these pricings and getting, you know, another thing we want to do is see how much we can actually piggyback or combine things into one purchase order, right? So we get all this heavy-duty equipment in one, and whether that includes, you know, portable x-rays and those kind of over $30,000 items.
Right.
I don't know that the
You're
numbers
talking
will
about the
change much. from
smaller
that.
items, is that what you're talking about?
I'm just talking about everything in there,
Yeah.
outfitting from your scalpel all the way through to, you know, the lesser used equipment like x-ray or whatever.
Mhm.
But without, the 7.5, I don't think that number is gonna change much, because that's as recent as it gets for the construction and building materials. Without kind of going through, and we can do our best at trying to price these things, but that's, I think the goal of today was, do we want to have Shanda looking at these things to procure before that meeting? Otherwise, I don't know how much
We
equipment.
can look, I mean, we can have Shanda look and see what pricing is. I mean, and bring it to that meeting, because that's part of the information that we need for the long effect of running the facility. We gotta know them kind of numbers a little bit too.
Otherwise, I don't think, John, we'd be able to get down as far as we may be able to, you know, as far as the equipment is concerned.
So you're talking about doing some research to know what the
Yeah.
possible, that's fine.
Do we have
I think
that
that
list?
should be going forward, doing
We-
research.
We're getting the list, yeah. Dottie has thrown a rough list together, and she is looking at some of the smaller things. Really, we've kind of been waiting on space, how much space we're gonna have, figuring out which building we're gonna go into as far as getting the rest of the list together, seeing what would fit, what was necessary, what wasn't necessary. So it's basically already created, and then she's going through pricing things, but we didn't know, you know, do we wanna go with Portnoy on a lot of it? Do we want Shannon to
Let's
procure
compare
it?
We're not gonna be able to make that decision until we see, so this research you're talking about, I think it has to be done.
Right.
And to figure out, well, these are the different options, this is what we think we can do if we go this route, that route, because when we have this discussion on the 9th, I want to really have a clear understanding, and obviously nothing's going to be perfect, but I want to have a much clearer understanding of what is this really going to cost. And when I'm talking about construction, that includes outfitting this operation. Are you telling me that does not include that, or?
No, it does.
Okay, I
The
just want to be clear on
7.5 from
that.
Smith Group is everything.
Okay, the 7.5 you're talking about, that's building a lab and having it fully,
All the renovations to the
everything's
current
there
structure.
that's
yeah.
needed to make it work, including equipment, or no?
Equipment I have to get back to you on. I believe equipment was built in, and that's.
Well, I thought it was, because
Yeah.
that's where we talked about the one x-ray machine,
The
that was $700,000 by
Right.
itself.
That's
So
exactly right.
my interpretation was that was included in
That was the
that
way they
estimate.
presented it, yeah.
Yeah, the way I understood it is you walk in the door and you can start performing autopsies
Yeah.
after that number.
Yeah,
Well,
they just
that-
weren't going to provide the equipment, obviously we'd have to go out and get that separate.
Well,
Will Dottie also be providing a guesstimate of operating? So how often are we gonna have to replace scalpels and blah, 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 blah? So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we can anticipate,
Monthly
because
cost.
we're gonna need that next year for
Budget.
the budget,
Mhm.
but there's not really been money designated, but if we're gonna need to use some ARPA for like maybe first year operations,
Supplies, mhm.
because we're not gonna have the revenue coming in yet, or we don't know what it's gonna be, so we would need to be, I would hope,
Sure.
conservative in,
Well, and that's why we're wondering, would it be fine with you guys to look at going with Portneuf, right, as one option, because then we
you
can
can
maybe get
consider
that as a
any
bulk item.
potential option as far as determining what the possible costs would be.
Okay,
More data is better.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll get going with that. And the other thing I think we were looking at is if we were going to start kind of procuring the smaller, x-ray thing like that, which obviously that's not the intent, but would that be, just as we go forward, I think Dottie has asked this, when we get to that stage, assuming we do, are we good with her being able to order equipment? Or are we just wanting her to work through somebody, a county employee where she's just a subcontractor or a contractor?
They're gonna go through you.
Okay.
I mean, just like you sign for time
Oh,
cards
gather
and
the
different
invoices
things
and-
and invoices that come through our office now.
That's what we assumed, but we just
You know,
wanted to make sure.
We're not gonna turn a contractor loose and just ordering anything.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen.
and it'll most likely be an approved list
Mhm.
that you'll approve in March.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that protects you
Yes, I
on
like
on the
that.
purchasing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the whole point of the discussion was just how can we make this as easy as possible for reporting, so that
That's-
Christie's not,
that's-
And you guys
That's
should
all our
have those
goal.
conversations, you and Christie and whoever else is involved in that, but, I'd absolutely want her to be comfortable with how this would be reported and to minimize the workload that their office has to take on.
We'll just work together.
like we always do.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of this, so
Yep.
we're on the same page.
Perfect.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
All right, Christie.
Okay, quick clarification. Christy Clauser, Bannock County Comptroller. I need to present to you the budget to actual revenue and expenditures per Idaho Code 311611. So I just wanted to clarify that because it's a statutory requirement, so just throwing that out there.
That's why we say it on the record.
Exactly. I provided you guys the reports. I don't believe they are in the packet, but I did email them to the agenda group on the 23rd. So I'm not sure why they're not in the packet, but, so have you seen them?
I thought I did.
Okay.
That came as a separate email, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And usually I don't know that Christie prints them out because there are
yeah, it's a lot of
a lot of
pages.
pages.
That's why it's not in the packet itself.
So the highlights, I can touch on the highlights for you. Basically, salaries are mostly around the 25% range, but that's where it should be because we're reporting on October through December. So it's the first quarter. We have a couple departments that have spent a little bit more than 25% in operating. I'm not concerned at this point. We still need to do our reversing. So I had to do accruals, expenditures that were paid in October that maybe needed to be accrued into September. I still need to do those reversed entries. So those are still reflected in here because I've not done those entries yet. So these are not final quarter ending numbers. But county operations is, on the operating side is, or on the A budget side is spent at 30%. We still need to do the budget revision to cover the prosecutor stipends. So as that budget revision gets done, that number will come down. We do have the resolution done, but I think the entry might be done in January, not December. Grounds is at 33%. I've talked to Dan Kendall, and I will be bringing before the board in the next couple of weeks, moving the electrician salary a discussion to move the electrician salary down to operations, because we may not be hiring that position this year. That'll be more of a discussion when it's agendaized.
And I've had that, did I talk to you about that?
I think so.
Yeah.
And so it can be more,
I pulled Kyle and Dan and Scott all together, and the goal going forward is, let's see what this year is with contractors, because as I talked to each one of them, the need isn't there for a full-time electrician.
and this was something that we talked about at budget time. We budgeted it as a salary item, and then not knowing if we were going to need it, we had the discussion that we would move it down to cover contracting. So it was kind of anticipated when we set the budget, but now it's kind of coming to fruition.
Okay.
IT is higher than normal. I need to do a little bit of research. They're showing 85% spent, but the main reason for that is we had to pay our Tyler maintenance, which is a large chunk of money. So that will skew the percentage spent, no differently than in February or January when you guys pay your juvenile detention bill. That'll skew that percent. So normally what I'll do is I'll take that out of the equation and then give you a more accurate percent spent.
If I understand this right, we're a quarter of the way through the year.
Yes.
And so
But if you-
ideally, these numbers should be 25% or
Yes,
lower.
except when you have skewed large one-time payments. And the IT line item that we pay our Tyler maintenance, that was about $150,000. So when you look at a budget of, well, let me get there real quick. When you look at an overall budget of $480,000 for operating, and you spend $150 of that on a one-time, it's going to skew that percentage.
But this is not a surprise.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. But I wanted to point it out because if you looked at it, you might get big eyes.
Well, anybody watching might, if you hear something like that.
Exactly, which is why I'm explaining it.
Right, thank you.
HR, their budget is spent at 58%. Again, he does not have a large budget. We paid for some training, and that, again, probably skewed the percentage. Fair operations, I need to look at the workers' comp. I think that may have been coded incorrectly, which is part of the reason why I do these reviews, is also to verify coding and make sure things are being paid where it should be. That might need to come out of not the actual fair side, but out of the office side. So I'll do that check. The court-appointed public defender's budget is at 42%. We need to do a little bit more work on that and determine if that's because of our conflicts that we pay the contracts, or if there are some other things that are possibly skewing these numbers.
Well, and we did have, earlier in the year, we had the
If you
one
watch-
individual that was 3 times
Yeah.
in a month, and that individual no longer works with us.
Right. And the other thing is I have not done the reversing the accruals, and I know they had some year-end entries that were paid in October due to timing. So once I do those journal entries out, that could change that percentage also.
Okay.
I have another question for you.
Mhm.
To some degree, when these guys hit their 100%, they're done.
Yes, but this is why I watch it, and I point out the anomalies, or I watch the anomalies to see if it's, so like with court-appointed public defenders, if that one continues to grow and not slow down, then when we get 6 months into the year, I will definitely be updating the board, if not sooner, to let you know that we need to take some either corrective action or be aware that we might dip into contingency. So one of our departments we have within the general fund is contingency. And statutorily, we're allowed to budget up to 5% of expended general fund totals in contingency. And that is exactly what that is for. It's the unknowns. If it's going to be we're going to get sued and we don't anticipate it, but we want to have the money to cover it. If we're going to have a department where we're unsure of what their needs are going to be, we have the abilities to cover it. We really try not to get into contingency until end of the year, because the minute you start using it, it's gone. And then you don't have your backup plan.
And then we invite that department
Yes.
head, as it starts getting out of whack,
Mhm.
we invite them to come in and explain also what's
Right.
going on.
And the process here then, as far as what you're doing with this report, you're doing more frequent reports directly to the departments? Or are they tracking their own, or how does this all work?
It depends on the department.
Okay.
So departments receive payment reports every week.
Every week?
Basically your commissioner's report.
Right.
Once all of those are paid, that week we send the departments those
Okay.
payment reports. Some departments track their expenditures. Teresa Argyle at the sheriff and jail tracks hers every week and balances to those payment reports. We also send out, or are supposed to send out monthly budget reports, AB reports, like what I sent you on this.
Which would be telling the department head.
Where
you're
they're at.
You know, we've spent 25% of the year and you're at 34%.
Yes.
And are you telling me some of the departments don't track? Well, I guess that would allow them to track it if they're getting this report.
They should be monitoring this and watching it.
Road and Bridge does a pretty good job.
Most of our
They
departments do
that.
track.
Mhm.
So don't get me wrong, yes, most of them do. Road and Bridge has QuickBooks, Sheriff's Office has QuickBooks, Landfill has QuickBooks. Not sure what Event Center is doing. Once we roll out department access to Tyler, they'll be able to jump into the system and look. We're not at that point yet.
Have we, in last year's budget, did we have any departments that ended up going over?
Yes.
Coroner.
And I can get you those. The coroner's budget ended up going, no, we opened the budget for him. He did not
But it
go
was over budget. We
Yeah,
moved
yeah.
monies into there,
But he didn't go over, we caught it in time.
but.
Is that the only one? or were
Tomato,
there-
tomato. That's-
I did a report to the commission in October
Yeah,
for that.
there was
and
a
then,
fair board that we
um,
moved money into.
Yep, and I can get with you separately on that. We, in August, September, when I know we're gonna have a department that may or may not go over budget, we have the abilities to move monies from A to B or B to A, depending on where they're gonna go over budget. We also have the abilities, if they've met revenue, that we can open the budget and give them more budget authority. So those are options, and that's what we did with the coroner, is we were able to move monies. I think we opened the budget or moved, I can't remember exactly, but I can report that back to you if you'd like.
I think we had some of both.
Yeah.
the way I remember.
But if a department happened to be just spending too much and wasn't paying attention, I guess, then the other option would be to say, okay, you can't spend any more money.
Exactly.
Okay.
They don't get to that point.
Just,
I try to watch it closely and work with the departments so that we can be proactive, and I try to work just with the departments, and then when we need to get you involved, when we're gonna have a problem, I get you involved, but statutorily, it's the clerk's responsibility to keep departments within budget.
And, okay, great. And so it sounds like it's pretty rare that we're even having to have these
Yeah.
extra discussions. Okay.
And usually, if a department is gonna have something, so like Anita came to you and wanted to buy that printer because of the miscommunication
Right.
at budget time. So
Right.
we know we're gonna have to watch her. Because if postage, she thinks she can cover it through postage, and we
Right.
most likely can. But we
Well-
know through the process if we're gonna have certain departments that we may have issues with.
Gotcha.
Or if we see conflict contracts coming in higher than normal, which is why Ernie last week asked about wanting totals by each vendor, is so that mentally you can kind of track it.
Right, right. Okay.
Speeding up, liability insurance is at 49%, but that's because we pay it half up front and then the other half later in the year. So those are the expenditure highlights. The revenue highlights, I did not look at this as closely as I should have when I sent it, and the budgets are not in there except in the grants. So you have revenue, but you can't compare it to budget.
Can't compare.
So I will be correcting that. And then I can either re-report or we'll just look at it in 6 months. But we also have a lot of accruals that I need to put into 22 and reverse. And then we really don't get a lot of our quarterly monies until January because the state sends those to us in January.
So just update and we'll go for the next quarter.
Okay. Revenue is easier to look at after 6 months because you really don't get a good feel for it with the first quarter.
Mhm.
Expenditures are a little different. You want to track those a little more often. So that is my report.
Motion to accept that report.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to accept the report as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I forgot one thing. These were sitting over here.
Oh.
These are mileage by Fair Board members that have been, and we just okay them. We don't even have to sign it. It's just,
Well, there you
so go ahead and make a motion that we accept the mileage.
go. Mr. Chair, I make a motion we accept the mileage.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll give you those back. And with that,